Hello YouTubers! My name's Willie. Welcome to my channel. Today I have for you reaction request 199. And this is requested by CJ Falcon for Arch Warhammers Primaris Marines ? So let's check this out. 1. Play. Dun, dun. Dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun.
Greetings and salutations, friends. We've got to have a little discussion about Gilliman's Special Snowflake Brigade, aren't we? So I've kind of not been wanting to talk too much about the upcoming 8th edition of 40k, because honestly, so far, I think the rules look pretty damn decent. There are some much-needed simplifications in there, and so far, I think they look pretty good. I do have some minor grievances, like, for example, the complete and utter abandonment of weapon skill hit shots, which feels like a bit of a surrender, honestly. Granted, they didn't mean diddly dick in 7th edition either, but I feel like units with substantially higher weapon skill should have an advantage in melee due to their ability to parry. And the PowerPoint system, which I consider to be an utterly fucking pointless affair, but all in all, I like how it's shaping up. The simplifications were definitely necessary, and I do think that this will probably leave the game's complexity more or less intact, while massively speeding up the games themselves, which is very, very nice. But then there is, of course, the Primaris Space Marines. Yet another retroactive thing that Gilliman just remembered that he had ordered Belisarius Crawl to do 10,000 cunting years ago, and for some reason we only heard about this now. But let's not dance around the giant pink elephant in the room. This was pulled straight out of Games Workshop cavernous anus, rather than Gilliman's equally cavernous cavity. It would appear that Games Workshop has finally taken the Space Marines to their logical conclusion. They put Space Marines in Warhammer Fantasy and called them Sigmarines, and now we have Space Marines. I kid you not. I do not think that even in my wildest mushroom fantasies I could possibly come up with something that makes less sense and is more fucking useless. In all the honesty, this strikes me as just utterly fucking pointless. Just super soldiers. What the absolute fucking hell is this supposed to fucking be? Now, I don't mind the base level of this. I don't mind, for example, the new armor or the new weapons. In fact, I would have much preferred if these were simply Space Marines that had been sequestered by secret order of the Emperor, or, Gilliman pretending to be the Emperor anyways, and they'd been taken from their parent chapters, brought to Mars, and equipped with new weapons and armor, and trained in new special doctrines, and therefore made them more, special. But no, that flat out was not special enough, and so we ended up with the Snowflake Marines. They are so special that they polish their armor in melted snow. And that is just the aesthetics. That's just me bitching about the fact that we now have super soldiers. If you really want to delve into the pure bullshit of this, let me remind you that the Space Marines were the absolute best that the Emperor of Mankind could produce, and yet some random cocking tech priest of Mars has managed to not only reproduce the Emperor's greatest work, but improve upon it. Somewhere, somehow, Fabius Bile is crying out of his arse. And don't get me wrong, it's not all negative. I really like the new look of the armor. The Mark 10 looks fantastic, as does the new Crawl pattern bolt guns. Fuck me now. And perhaps what I object to the absolute most is that this was Gilliman's idea. I can just hear the squeaky, pathetic voice of a Matt Ward sitting somewhere in a dark hole somewhere going, "Spiritual Lord," while wringing his dirty little hands.
Nice.
On the upside, or at least partially upside, they will be available to all chapters, so now all of the Adeptus Astartes may embrace the Blueberry's bastard offspring. maybe they would be an option to just take the armor and the weapons and let the snowflakes stay back on Mars. But the biggest problem is that this is almost certainly merely a symptom of a much bigger disease. Namely, Games Workshop's complete and utter lack of a single interesting thought for the last 15-odd fucking years. If any more evidence is needed at this point, this would certainly be it. But after the Gathering Storm, which was hailed as one of the biggest events in 40k history, turned out to just merely be one big fat wet fart of absolute and complete insignificance. And then, of course, there is just the lore idea. Belisarius Kroll. I don't care if he had 10,000 years to do this. Hell, it took the Emperor himself, God only knows how many hundreds if not thousands of years, during the Long Night, and possibly a bit of collusion with the Dark Gods. And yet Belisarius Kroll not only managed to reproduce it, but improve upon it. Just, no, this is silly. This is just bloody silly. And that is my main argument against this. Like, I hate the supposed lore background for this. And not to mention their numbers. They're apparently available in their hundreds, if not thousands. What the hell? I mean, granted, the Mechanicum is pretty good at keeping secrets when they want to, but how the shitting bricks did they manage to keep thousands of Super Adeptus Astartes secret on Mars for this long? Really? Nobody asked any questions, you know? Because this would have to require gene seed. Indeed, they mentioned that they used the gene seed of various Primarchs. None of the existing chapters started asking questions when the Mechanicus was drawing off massive amounts of gene seed. I mean, yeah, they could have done this over the course of 10,000 years, but even then, gene seed is one of the most heavily controlled substances in the Imperium. It is literally a question of the Imperium's life or death. Nobody fucking asks any questions around this. It just doesn't make sense. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, I like the aesthetics. Granted, they look a little bit too clean to me. They look a little bit too futuristic to be 40k, and that I don't really mind. I'm just kind of pointing it out. They look a little bit too future soldiers-y, which I think was the point, and if it was only the armor, I would say, fine, cool. That just shows that the Imperium is kind of starting to fight back, you know, it's starting to rise again, utilizing more of the technology that it has at its disposal, and rediscovering some of the old Arco-tech buried on Mars. I wouldn't mind that, but that in combination with these super soldiers just, in my opinion, results in a end product that just doesn't really feel like 40k, nor does it really fit into the 40k universe. Not to mention the reception of these. I mean, most chapters would look at these with abject suspicion. Out of nowhere comes these new Super Marines, and they claim to be part of your chapter. They have the same gene seed as you. They do not, however, have any of the Legion's training or traditions. They have been raised on Mars. I cannot imagine a single Legion, not even the Blueberries, accepting these guys with open arms. Hell, even Gilliman must have understood that asking his Legion to accept these guys would be insanity. Not to mention the simple fact that, of course, the gene seed of the various other chapters was used for this, presumably without their acceptance or knowing. Hell, let me paint you a pretty little picture. What do you think is going to be the reaction of, for example, Lord Dante, when he hears that Papa Smurf has been sanctioning, without his knowing or acceptance, the utilization of Sanguinius's own flesh for goddamn mutagenic experiments to create what is, in all due essentiality, mutant space marines? But
nice.
Hey, on the other hand, if anything is likely to get the lion out from under his fucking bed, this ought to do it. I kid you not, this would be grounds for a civil war within the Imperium. The Imperium is not exactly the most accepting of places when it comes to gene manipulation and even the most controlled of mutations. The little bastards can't even bring themselves to fully accept navigators yet. And you think this is gonna stand? Unsanctioned manipulation of the Emperor's own work? Holy cow! By all rights, this should lead to a greater disaster than Abaddon's latest wet fart. I tell you true, friends, the Emperor is spinning on his throne this very goddamn instance, and considering just how little respect Guilliman apparently has for his legacy, I wouldn't be surprised if Guilliman shoved a dynamo up his ass and used him to power the experiment. If this isn't leading up to some plot twist, claiming that Guilliman has been corrupted by chaos and is in reality a demon prince, I am going to be very, very cross with Games Workshop. I don't like it. I don't like it one tiny little bit. I mean, I was expecting some new vehicles. Maybe some new variations on the Space Marines equipment, like the bolt gun. I'm perfectly fine with that. The Mark 10 armor. I don't mind that. Granted, I'm a little bit suspicious as to what happened to Mark 9, but fuck it. Maybe some new variants of Terminator armor, or a new version of the Venerable Dreadnoughts, or the ever-longed-for Psi Titans, but this just... It leaves a really bad taste in the mouth, is what it does. And while you'd think I'd be quite used to GW shitting all over my oral cavity at this point, this is just a little bit lower than I was hoping that even they would sink to. But
wow.
Hey, perhaps I'm the only one, although I doubt that strongly. What do you guys think about the new Special Snowflake Marines? We're gonna have to figure out some catchy name for them. Personally, I am quite fond of Special Snowflake Marines, because this is some damn special shit right here. Anyways, I have been Arch. Thank you once again for listening to my ramblings. Until next time, have a good day.
You too. Okay, well, I started taking notes to learn things, but there wasn't really a lot of useful... I mean, there was some information there, but it was mainly grumbles and a little bit of ranting, which is all fine, I understand, but I'm not immersed enough in this fandom to understand a good portion of that, and so I find it hard to be insulted or otherwise about these new Marines. He brought up some very good points, like what I've learned so far, they definitely don't seem trusting, and it's not very likely they're just going to let these guys join their group without any of their training. It'd have to be forced. At this point, they're all so shattered and chasing tails. I don't know if it'd be good for them. I don't know if it'd be good for them at all. Anyways, that was Arch Warhammer's probably immediate thoughts on the release of the Primaris Marines. And that was, if you want to go check out Arch's stuff, there is a link in the description, so go check him out. Pretty good stuff. Lots of lore, some gaming stuff. And this was originally requested by CJ Falcon, so thank you for requesting it. It was indeed interesting. So, I think I'll leave it at that. Willie, out.
If you liked the video, stay tuned for more content. And as always, feel free to leave a comment. Have a good one.
Let us die to make